Hello and thanks for joining us on Chicago Tonight. I'm Joanna Hernandez. Brandis Freeman has the evening off. Here's what we're looking at. The Chicago Park District unveils a bold and ambitious vision for the city's beloved Grant Park.
We're not savage, we're not animals, we're not aliens, we are humans and we are Americans.
And Bad Bunny brings Boricua culture to the Super Bowl halftime show following his historic Grammy win. Local Latinos react. First off tonight, U.S. Education Linda McMahon is in Chicago today as part of her nationwide History Rocks tour. The event took place with students at the Chicago Hope Academy. McMahon's visit comes as Illinois Governor Debí Pritzker considers whether to opt into federal school voucher program. The program offers tax credits to people who donate to student scholarship funds, which can be used for private school tuition or public school expenses, like tutoring or after-school programs. Some groups are concerned that opting into the program could lead to decreased enrollment and funding for public schools. But McMahon says the scholarship funds up to $1,700 and could support public schools.
Money is raised to give scholarships. You can go to public school or private school. You can use the money for private tutoring. You can use it for special needs students. So there are a lot of ways to use this money. I'm not quite sure why every governor wouldn't jump in and opt in, for this particular program, because it will really benefit children, across the board.
Pritzker has yet decided whether to opt into the program. Now, looking for a new gig, Chicago's Police Oversight Board is accepting applications. The city's Community Commission for Public Safety and Accountability, or CCPSA, has 3 vacant seats it's looking to fill. The commission oversees the Civilian Office of Police Accountability, the Chicago Police Board, and has the power to set policy for the Chicago Police Department. Aisha Humphreys, a member of the nomination committee, says while anyone is able to apply, youth and Northside residents will have a special opportunity. The 7-member commission is made up of at least 2 Northside residents, 2 Southside residents, and 2 Westside residents, according to the rules. The application deadline is Friday. For more details on how to apply, visit our website. Now, the Bulls roster is looking quite a bit different than a week ago. The team was very busy ahead of today's trade deadline. In addition to moves earlier this week, the Bulls also sent hometown kid Ayo Dosunmu, who was in the final year of his contract, to the Minnesota Timberwolves. The Twin Cities also acquired forward Julian Phillips in the swap. In return, Chicago got 2 young players, Rob Dillingham and Leonard Miller, along with 4 future second-round draft picks. The team's decision to trade several core players this week signals to rebuild, as the Bulls currently sit at 10th in the Eastern Conference. Now up next, an updated vision of Chicago's front yard. That's right after this.
Chicago Tonight is made possible in part by the Alexandra and John Nichols family, the Polk Brothers Foundation, and the support of these donors.
A tunnel sending DuSable Lakeshore Drive underground, a new parkland constructed as a deck over metro tracks. Those are just a few of the ideas presented in the Chicago Park District's 20-year framework for updating Grant Park. The framework builds up on an initial 2002 plan that delivered Maggie Daley Park and aims to create cohesion in a friendlier environment for pedestrians. Joining us to discuss the framework are Chicago Park District General Superintendent Carlos Ramirez Rosa and Leslie Recht, President of the Grant Park Advisory Council. Thank you both for joining us. Now let's talk about these ambitious ideas, because there's a lot of good ideas here. Carlos, tell us about the framework's main vision and what it seeks to accomplish.
Yeah, so in the context of the Park District, a framework plan is a North Star. It's guidelines that the district now has in place for us to work towards. And we only got here thanks to people like Leslie, people from across the city who provided thousands of comments to the district, attended meetings, and gave us that North Star. So this is now going to guide investment and development in Grant Park for the next 20 years. And one of the key things that we heard is that people, particularly Loop residents, South Loop residents, we've had extraordinary growth in the Loop and the South Loop over the last several decades. They want more recreation opportunities. For them, Grant Park is their neighborhood park. So this plan seeks to provide that. But we also know that Grant Park is activated year-round and needs to be flexible because it has so many different uses and so many different needs that it fills for the people of the city of Chicago and visitors.
And Carlos, are there any changes that people could see soon? Or I know there's some up in the air, not concrete, but is there anything that people can expect soon?
Yeah, well, I know one thing that Leslie and the Grant Park Advisory Committee pushed for was ensuring that there is better signage. We want to make sure that when people are in the park, they're able to get around the park, that it's more accessible. So we're going to be launching a wayfinding committee to bring experts and stakeholders together to help update that signage. But another really exciting update is mobile movable chairs. So we have seen movable chairs in parks like Bryant Park in New York City. We've seen it too in the Tuileries Garden or the Luxembourg Garden in Paris. So this is a tried and true model to create a place for respite, relaxation. And so we're going to be having 100 movable chairs around Buckingham Fountain later on this spring.
That sounds really interesting. And Leslie, what was your reaction to the framework that the Chicago Park District laid out?
Well, I think it's a wonderful opportunity. I think the fact that we have the framework plan now, obviously it's just a beginning. Now we have to go to the hard part, finalizing some of the elements that need to be designed and need to be finalized. And we have to find the money to pay for things, and we have to prioritize. We have a permit fee process going on right now where the Park District has allocated some funds back to Grant Park from the permit fees that they collect for major events in the park, and we're in the process of deciding what people want to do. So we're talking about more bathrooms, we're talking about improving an existing dog-friendly area, we're talking about looking at everything that people want in the park and say not just what do they want today, but what can we accomplish in the next year or 2 years so they see progress.
And Leslie, you just mentioned a few things. What would you say are your top priorities? You mentioned bathrooms.
Absolutely. We've got a wonderful new pickleball and tennis facility that was installed a few years ago. There's huge use of that. Jones High School uses those facilities. So it's a lot of different park users that's adjacent to the dog-friendly area, and it's very near the skateboard park that gets high usage from youth. And so we've got what I call a node of activity in that portion of the park where we really don't have bathrooms available. You need benches, bathrooms, fountains, all of these kinds of things.
Those main things that you need for people to
Main
enjoy.
facilities.
And Carlos, we know that Grant Park is known for hosting large events like Lollapalooza, Sueños, but those events, as we know, have caused some environmental damages to the Chicago's front yard. Does this framework do anything to better equip Grant Park when these events happen? Well,
per the agreement with those event organizers, if there's damage caused, they have to address it, they have to fix it on their dime. But also those big events, they help drive our local tourism economy. They help generate tax revenue that supports our parks. So Lollapalooza brings in over $10 million. They've done great work to make improvements in the park to provide those year-round recreation activities. But we also heard from people that we want to have the space have a permanent fairground. And so in the southern portion of Grant Park, we're looking to have a permanent fairground so that there's better infrastructure to support those events.
What does fairground, what does that mean?
So like a fairground, so like a festival ground. So a place where, there's infrastructure that is built in and in place to support large festivals, large events.
Specifically for like concerts, okay.
Correct, yes. And then in addition to that, we also know that we've heard from residents that they want us to continue the work that we've already been doing to find ways to maximize the footprint. So thanks to input we've gotten from the Grant Park Advisory Council and residents, we've worked with Lollapalooza organizers to change the footprint of the event so that some of those amenities can remain open to the public while the festival's going on. And then we're also always working with the event organizers to reduce the number of days that it requires for them to set up and to break down for the festival, because that means more days that the public can enjoy the park.
And Leslie, I'm curious, what has been some of the feedback from some of the residents?
Well, the plan was just released last night, so we're still
But
waiting.
I know there's been comments, right? There's been.
Absolutely, and I think a lot of the comments have been reflected in the plan that's been put forward. Obviously, there's more that we think people will be stimulated to talk about now that the final plan is out. And so we're having an advisory council meeting on the third Wednesday at 6 p.m. It'll be a Zoom meeting, and we'll keep soliciting comments and keep working with the superintendent and other people in the park district as this planning goes forward.
And Carlos, just to mention, I think there was around 2,800 public comments that inspired this proposed changes. Do you think that level of public feedback is sufficient for cities of nearly 3 million people?
Yeah. Well, ultimately, the task is to go out and to ask the public to get involved. And we held 7 input meetings. We made sure to solicit feedback both in person, virtually, via email, and that input is what guided this process and what led to this final framework plan. So we're so appreciative and grateful to everyone that participated. And we also saw a push. So, you know, when there were articles that came out, we saw an increase in the number of people that were submitting those comments online. So we're greatly appreciative to everyone that helped promote the process, and so importantly, everyone that participated in the process.
And I want to talk quickly about one of the ideas, which is an underground bridge under DuSable Drive, underground, you know, how could this work, and you know, where was this need identified?
Yeah, so the deck over. So we want to make sure that people are safer in Grant Park, and we want to make sure that we're expanding the amount of space that is available for pedestrians, for families to gather. And so we brought multiple options to the public and said, which of these options would you prefer for Lakeshore Drive and for Grant Park? And the option that got the most positive feedback was the deck over. Wow. So Queens Landing, which is east of Lakeshore Drive, and then of course the Buckingham Fountain Table in this plan is connected by a deck over that goes over Lakeshore Drive, making it easier to walk all the way from Congress Plaza all the way to the lakefront and stopping at beautiful Buckingham Fountain on the way. So that's a big, ambitious project. It's going to cost lots of money, and it's important to know
and
this
could take a long time.
That's right. And the framework plan, it's not technical drawings. There's still a lot of engineering and planning that needs to be done. And so in order to accomplish that deck over, but now we know based upon this public input process that we had, the vision that the Chicagoans that participated in this process would like us to pursue is that deck over. So now that we have that North Star, we can work with our partners at the state, we can work with our partners at the federal level, at CDOT, the Chicago Department of Transportation, to make that vision a reality.
And Leslie, quickly, what are your thoughts on the deck over?
Well, we have some concerns about feasibility.
Of course.
And so we've raised those concerns when the process was going on, and we're waiting to see. We're waiting to see because there's a lot that needs to be evaluated as we're going through this process. The theory is fine. We don't have a problem with the theory. The concern is, how do you depress Lakeshore Drive at that point? But we certainly like the vision of what the Park District is trying to do, and we're very supportive of a lot of the elements. The bridge going
Leslie,
from...
I'm so sorry, I'm going to have to leave it at that. This is
Oh.
all the time that we have, but I'm looking forward to see all these great ideas and changes. Thank you both for joining us.
Thank you very much.
Up next, a look at Bad Bunny's ahead of this Super Bowl performance. Global music icon Bad Bunny is set to take center stage this Sunday at the Super Bowl halftime show. The Boricua artist is already making history this week after his all-Spanish language album won Album of the Year at the Grammys. Since his Super Bowl performance was announced, critics have pushed back and called for an English language performer to headline football's biggest event instead. But thousands of fans, including many Puerto Ricans, are looking forward to his performance, dubbing it the Benito Bowl. Here to talk more about the artist and his influence is Brenda Torres Figueroa, artist, teacher, musician, and founder of El Schomburg Art Gallery, Veronica Acacio, co-founder and director of education and programming for the National Museum of Puerto Rican Arts and Culture, and through Zoom, Vanessa Diaz, professor of Chicane and Latin Studies at Loyola Marymount University in Los Angeles, and author of How Bad Bunny Became the Global Voice of Puerto Rico Resistance. Thank you all for joining us. I assume that all of you guys are Bad Bunny fans.
Yeah, just a little.
Just a little bit. Veronica, I want to start with you. For those in the audience who aren't familiar with Bad Bunny, tell me a little bit about his personal story and how you would describe his music style.
Bad Bunny comes from Puerto Rico. Young reggaeton artist who started off as a teller at a grocery store and never gave up on his love of music and pursued it to the fullest, always putting at the forefront Puerto Rico. And so it has set him apart because he's incorporated and engaged so many other artists in his music that he's been invited to perform with other artists which help elevate him and increase his platform. So he is a phenomenal genius. In my opinion, he is a genius musician. And we're so excited that he got chosen to be at the halftime Super Bowl.
It's a pretty good description. Now, Vanessa, I want to go to you. In a time where Latinos have been targeted in this country for just also speaking Spanish, how does it feel being Puerto Riqueña and seeing Bad Bunny headline at the Super Bowl?
Yeah, I think this is a time when we really need a loud, proud voice in the face of the terrorizing of our communities. And we need that voice to be in Spanish. And so that we have Bad Bunny as, you know, one of the world's, if not the world's biggest musical star right now, who is, you know, so proud of who he is, Puerto Rican, Latino, a Spanish speaker. He really is a galvanizing figure, and there are people who may feel otherwise about how incredible it is that he's taking the stage. But I think at the end of the day, what we see is that there's a lot more people who are excited than those who are detractors from this moment that we as a Latino community need so badly, and as Puerto Ricans as well.
And Vanessa, I want to quickly discuss the popularity of Spanish language music. What do you think that makes Bad Bunny such a, you know, global phenomenon?
Yeah, well, right now, Latin music is actually the fastest growing genre in the US. So even though we know Latin music comprises many different genres, the way that it's tabulated through streaming services, it's considered one genre. And we've seen it grow exponentially. And Bad Bunny has been at the helm of that. And I think a lot of people are quick to say, like, oh, well, maybe like the US was really ready to have, you know, this massive moment for Latinos in the Spanish language. But I think that the political moment shows us that that's not the case, right? It's not as if there's this magical opening now for Latinos and suddenly everyone loves Spanish. It's not the case. What is the case is that Bad Bunny is really this once in a lifetime artist who he is a musical genius. He really is. And the thing that people love about him is how consistent he has stayed since the beginning. Many people have come to know him through his most recent album, Debí Tirar Más Fotos, which is explicitly political, but the reality is that Bad Bunny has been speaking out about issues that matter the most to him, about Puerto Rico, about LGBTQ rights, about racial inequality throughout his entire career. And so he has really led this surge in Latin music's increasing popularity in this country.
And Brenda, I want to bring you in. Let's talk a little bit about the rhythms that we hear in his music. We know that he incorporates traditional Puerto Rican music like bomba, plena, and música jíbara with these specific roots in his music. Why do you think he is still able, you know, to bring such a wide appeal to his music?
It has been a beautiful journey, particularly, and he mentioned it in some of his songs from the 90s, from starting of reggaeton and, you know, kind of the influence as well on rap and hip hop, that people are finding themselves looking back, right? Looking back at the roots of the music that we love the most. And it has been an immense honor to see collaborating with him many of the people that they have not been visible because they were in the bomba and the plena scene, and they haven't been necessarily mainstream, right? And
are you talking about the Afro-Puerto Rican influence?
the Afro-Puerto Rican influence that even we're talking about 100 years, as you know, the drums, like the bomba was not even been possible, and 30, 40 years ago, you only knew it through the shows that they were, but it was very limited, the visibility of bomba. And seeing it like that right now, it is, I have no words to explain it. It is
Has
really
it made you
remarkable.
emotional to look at some of his concerts?
All the time since 2016, and I've been going to all his concerts every time that he has been in here in Chicago, and following through because I knew that reggaeton and the connection with Tego Calderon and the elevation of the music of Bomba and Luisa and those communities have been really remarkable.
And let's talk a little bit about the backlash. Veronica, critics have called for an English-speaking singer at the Super Bowl, and Turning Point USA is even having their own halftime show. What do you think about this backlash?
This is my opinion, not opinion of the National Puerto Rican Museum, but it's a reflection of this white supremacist administration, a complete reflection that they would not embrace this amazing Puerto Rican artist and celebrate his artistry and celebrate our language, Latinos, Spanish. So what they did is, of course, create their alternative white Super Bowl, halftime Super Bowl show, which has all white artists. I mean, it's very, very plain to see what is happening here, and it's a shame. It's shameful. However, I think we are a resilient people, and we're all going to show up, we're all going to support Bad Bunny, and we're going to continue to elevate our culture, our history, our art, and Bad Bunny is helping us do that and bring it to the forefront. So they could do their little thing, and we're going to continue to move forward.
And Vanessa, we know that Bad Bunny does not only have Latino fans, there's fans who don't even speak English at all, but love his music. How has Bad Bunny used his music and platform to express his political views? You didn't talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and a testament to what you're speaking of is, I teach a class about Bad Bunny, and it is not only Latinos in the class. There's very few Puerto Ricans here in LA. And so I only have, ever a couple of Puerto Ricans in my class. I have students from all over the world in my class who speak lots of different languages, and they're fans, they're interested. And I think one thing that is so important about him is that, the subtitle of our book is how Bad Bunny became the global voice of Puerto Rican resistance. It's not to say he's the only face of Puerto Rican resistance, but on an international level, Puerto Rico has never been more familiar to people, and it's because of him. And he does that not just through his music, he does it through his style. When he wears outfits, they often have certain kinds of symbols. The pava hat, which is the like classic farmer's hat of the jibaro, which is the farmer countryman figure from Puerto Rico that is now sort of ubiquitous right now, through his short films, through his music videos. He really takes advantage of all of the different ways to express himself, express his art. And we saw at the Grammys, right? He got on stage and he said, "Ice out." He said, "We're not animals, we're people, we're human, we're American." So Bad Bunny has always used his platform in that way. It's just actually gotten more expansive as he's gotten more popular, which is also something that makes him a really unique artist.
And talking about his lyrics, I do want to bring his song La Mudancia. I want to just quickly read some of his lyrics. He says, "Aquí mataron gente por sacar la bandera, por eso es que ahora yo la llevo donde quiera. Si mañana muero, yo espero que nunca olviden mi rostro y pongan un tema mío al día que traigan a hostos. En la casa la bandera azul clarito." Okay, Brenda, tell me what these lyrics mean. How would you describe them?
Like Vanessa was saying, like he's resistance, but it's not the only resistance that have happened in the history of Puerto Rico. What he have done as well through his music is elevating the need to continue fighting for Puerto Rico, to continue fighting for our neighborhoods, anti-gentrification, separation of families, displacement that we continue facing in our communities. So it is, it touched the bone. It touched the bone, particularly those that have being forced out of Puerto Rico.
And people who were born probably here and are Puerto Rican.
Exactly, exactly. So it speaks to a lot of layers of resistance that we have to endure. So that's why I find it in a really magical and phenomenal space that it's very complex and layered, not just like, another, Puerto Rican, very simplistic, like people want to put it.
I like how you describe that. And Veronica, we have time for one last question. And here I want to ask, for those who are on the fence about Bad Bunny and his music and are going to be watching the Super Bowl, what do you want them to feel?
I want them to feel the love that he has for our island, our people, and the understanding the colonial reality that is Puerto Rico right now, and why he speaks and performs the way he does. It's very intentional and authentic, and I hope they give him the opportunity to shine.
Well, thank you all for joining us,
you.
and we're all going to be watching the Benito Bowl.
Yes, we are. Thank you.
We're
Thank
back
you.
to wrap things up right after this.
Reflecting the people and perspectives that make up our communities, this story is part of Chicago Tonight, Latino Voices.
And that's our show for this Thursday night. You can stream Chicago Tonight on our WTTW YouTube channel every evening and catch up on any programs you may have missed. And join us tomorrow night at 5:30 and 7 for the weekend review. Now, from all of us here at Chicago Tonight, I'm Joanna Hernandez. Thank you for watching. Stay healthy and safe. Good night.
Closed captioning is made possible by Robert A. Clifford and Clifford Law Offices, a Chicago personal injury and wrongful death firm, righting the heaviest wrongs for more than 40 years.